Good morning, everyone. A good and Erev Shabbos. Good and Erev Shabbos. We're finishing the first week of this new project. Today's shir is sponsored Lila Nishmas Aaron Nachum and Simcha HaKohen, Yeshua Mordechai ben Shepsel, Brachos Sarah Bashmuel Leib, and Binyamin Moshe ben Yosef. May the Shabbos have an aliyah. Amen. Um, Before we get into today's Perek, I wanted to share over that we had from the first Perek. We discussed 2 days ago about Brother Elizabeth ben Azariah darshaning to say Shema by morning and night, and we also mentioned that that Shema is the one thing that we say every day, twice a day, and it's mandatory. And it's incumbent for everybody. So the Spinker Rebbe was asked the question, like, why are we so focused on Shema twice in 24 hours more than anything else? And the Spinker Rebbe answered that with the Emunah and Bitachon, when we left Mitzrayim, we know we were on the 49th level until we were at the lowest of the low. And in only 49 days during Sfiras Omer, we went to the highest of the high. We got to Shavuos, we went in the highest of the high. It's only with Emunah and Bitachon that we were able to go from the lowest level to the highest level in such a short time. And it's a chizuk for everybody that just as you have the day, which is when things are great, and the night when things are challenging, it it just takes a moment of Emunah and Bitachon to launch yourself from the lowest of the lows to the highest of the highs. And it all comes down with the Emunah and Bitachon that Shema has in its place. So today we're going to finish up with the laws of Shema and Perek Gimel. We continue with Mishnah Aleph. Misha Meso Motel Lefanov. Hata Mekriya Shema Min Atfila Umin Atfilin. Okay, someone has a dead relative lying in front of him. If one of the Zion crew. So now there's an Onain. He's part from Kriya Shema and from Shemona Esrei and from Tefillin. Obviously, he's part there from all the other mitzvahs I say as well. But these three are the most strict of all the mitzvahs I say. The only because only for the time that his relative passed away until the Kfura, he is part there from all mitzvahs I say. Interesting to note that when my father passed away 3 years ago, he was nifter on Shabbos Kodesh, on Shabbos afternoon. We didn't find out until Motzei Shabbos, and from Motzei Shabbos until, let's say, most of the day on Sunday, we were busy with all the arrangements. And since the body was being flown from Florida to New York, once all the arrangements were set, I was told that since the Ninus is really on Shabbos, but I didn't know on Shabbos, when it came to Sunday, Sunday was already Aninus Yom Sheni officially. I was told that once all the arrangements were already done and everything is in motion, that I should put on Tefillin and daven Mincha and even daven Shachris before the Kura on Monday, because the Kura wasn't going to be until the afternoon. That was what my Rav told me. But here we're talking about the Aninus of Yom Rishon, where even if the even if the Onain buries the mace the same day, he would still be parted from Tefillin, and he would put on and he would daven let's say mincha in the afternoon after the kura, even though he's parted from Tefillin the whole day v'ninas yom rishon. Okay, anyways, no say hamita. Going back into the Mishnah, no say hamita v'chilufei chalufein. So back in the day, I mean, you still have it nowadays, but those who are carrying the coffin and their substitutes, and the next row of substitutes. Everybody wanted a moment to fulfill the mitzvah of Levias and Mace. So everyone wanted to have an opportunity to be with the Aron and to pass it to the ground. Sometimes you see these big ksuras, these big Levias, you'll see like a lot of people, thousands of people, and they all want to have a share. So the ones who are currently holding the Aron and the people that are next to them and the people who are next after them, they and anyone Eshlif Nehamita, and those who are in front of the Aron and didn't yet have a chance to be Malav the mace by carrying it, the Eshel Acharmita, those that are behind the Aron who already had their chance. But what's the status of all these people? The five categories over here. So the Mishnah continues, Es Shalamita Sarach Behem Turim. The ones that the Aron needs their support. I mean, they're still going to be carrying, and they're in line to have an opportunity to carry the Aron, if even for a moment. So they're all putter from saying Kriya Shema until they had their chance. And those people who are not necessary for the Aron, they're in the back and the outskirts of the crowd. Then even though the female possession is proceeding, they still have a chiyuv to say Kriya Shema. Nevertheless, both groups, both the ones that are necessary for the Aron and the ones who are not necessary for the Aron, they are part there from Shema Esrei until after the Aron is buried. As we discussed previously, that Kriya Shema is the Raisa, so the Raisa is to be more machmiran, and you can say it quickly, like the guy that's up on the tree from yesterday. But Shema Esrei, which is A, is derabanan, and B, it requires more concentration than Shema, and therefore they're pater from Shema Esrei until after the Aron is buried. Mishnah Beis. After they had buried the mace and they are returning from the cemetery, where we know that that anyone who's not a Kohen who's been to a Kfura, they know that after the cover is closed up, we form two rows, and the oval walks through the two rows, and we console them with a Makim Yunachem. Makim Yunachem Esem B'Sov Shar Avei Sim Yerushalayim, and that's the beginning of the Shiva period. So, Im Yicholin L'Haskil L'Ligmar Ad Shelo Yagilu L'Shua Yaschilum. So, if you're in a position in the line, let's say further at the end of the line, and you're able to begin the Shema and finish it before the oval gets to your spot in the line, Yaschilu, then say Shema and finish it. Sometimes these lines are very, very long. Being long, but if there's not enough time, if there's not that many people at the Levaya, and there's a short, there's a short procession, a short line for the oval to walk through, there's not going to be enough time for him to start Kriya Shema. Well, Yaschilu, then he should not say Kriya Shema until after the oval passes. Okay, so now you're lined up in these rows. Hapenimin the Turim. So assuming that the rows are double, triple stacked, there's like you're at a parade. Parade is like there's many people in rows of them going back a ways, from the main line. So the ones who are on the main line, who the always going to see the front and center, they're part of from Kriya Shema. But the ones but the ones who are further away from the main line, they are chayiv in Kriya Shema, even as the oval is walking through, because they're not in the front view of the oval. Mishnah Gimel. Moving on. Nashim ba'avadim v'ketanim uketanim beturim b'kriyashma umin hatfilin. Women and slaves and young children are pater from saying kriyashma and from putting on tefillin. Both of them are mitzvahs as makrama, time-bound mitzvahs, and nashim are not obligated. The women are not obligated in time-bound mitzvahs, and neither are evakanani. Evakanani is chayav in the mitzvahs that a woman is chayav in, and therefore he is pater from kriyashma and tefillin. And ketanim, young children as well, who are under bar mitzvah, they not only are they exempt, but the fathers are exempt from training them in these particular mitzvahs. We know that the age of chinuch typically starts at 7 or 8, so you'll have a kid like a sheikh lulav, like at 8 years old or 7 years old, and you'll have I personally say they should really shake at 5 or 6. It's good for my business, but mainstream posting they already they say that the chinuch starts at 7 or 8, and we train them in other mitzvahs. When it comes to tefillin, I never heard of an 8-year-old who put on tefillin. Usually, it's when they get closer to the bar mitzvah, they can keep a clean body. Then they can start putting on tefillin like a couple of months before the bar mitzvah, depending on the minhagim. The chayavin betfila of mezuzah of bergas hamazon. But the women and slaves and the children, they're obligated in putting up a mezuzah and davening shema esrei and bergas hamazon. Because mezuzah is not time bound, and neither is tefillah. Because tefillah can be done all day, every day, and bergas hamazon is a chiyuv d'oraisa. Interesting. Why is Shema is also d'oraisa? So no, because bergas hamazon is not limited to any particular time. It's when you sit down to eat that you have to bench. So you're not bound to a particular time that has to be done. But you could argue that you have 72 minutes from the time you finish the meal. Okay, but you're eating, at whatever time you're eating, and you're going to wash and bench, and that's women are chayiv on that according to the Mishnah. Again, we don't pass them like the Mishnayos. You don't take this as a lech l'maisa. Moving on, Mishnah Daled, Bal Keri, the Haher Belibo, a Bal Keri, someone who had a seminal discharge at night or by day, and he is not allowed to read Shema. He has to think it in his heart. He has to be machshavit. As we know, Ezra HaSofer, he had a takana that a Balkari, someone who is forbidden to study Torah until he purifies himself in a mikveh. They didn't want to. They didn't want that the Talmid Chachamim should be so regularly busy with their wives that he instituted this takana so that after the person is intimate with his wife, that he would have to go to the mikveh and it becomes a whole of a nuisance. So they wanted to space out those intervals. So he made this takana. This takana was later mevatel. I think maybe Ezra was mevatel it. I'm not sure, and because it was too hard to maintain. But that was the original machshavas. This Mishnah is talking about when Ezra made that takana. So and not only does he not say the Shema to Balkari, but he also does not make the Brachos Kriya Shema before or after, even in his mind. So Shema he can think in his mind, but the Brachos he shouldn't even think at all. But on food, he has to bench it. He could say the words. But he does not make the brachas before the meal because those are all derabanan. Anything that's derabanan, we're gonna tell him that he can't do. I wonder if some people nowadays are not so marked on the brachos of food. It's maybe they're still holding back the Kalas Ezra and they don't have the birthday brachos Rishonos. Not sure. Tzarech on that. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with the Tanakama, and he says, he says, no, you make all the brachos properly. You say the brachos of Kriya Shema both before and after. You even say the brachos on food beforehand. He is permitting everyone to do all these things in their proper ways, whether it's about carry or not. Mishnah Hey, Ome Betfila Veniskash about carry, Lo Yafsik, Ela Yakatsu. Someone who is standing in Shema Esra and he remembers that he's about carry, that he had a discharge. What should he do? The Mishnah says, Lo Yafsik, he shouldn't stop his tefillah, he shouldn't just like walk away. Ela Yakatsu, rather he should shorten the brachos by saying the beginning and the end and cutting up the middle of the brachos, and so we can finish quickly. What if he went? What if now you have a guy who went down into the mikveh to be tovel? So he got up very early in the morning. He went down into the mikveh. So if he's able to get out of the mikveh, dry himself off, and get dressed and read the Shema before the nates, which is the actual time for reading the Shema, is before the nates, which you don't actually at the nates. So Yalev Yiskasev Yikra. So he should get up, he should get dressed, and he should read the Shema before the nates. The Imlav, but if he's running short on time and he doesn't have enough time to get out of the mikveh and dress before the nates, Yiskasev b'mayim Yikra. So he can cover himself with the water. Well, the poskim are asking, how is he going to cover himself with the water? The water is clear. How's that going to help? So really, we're not talking about clear water. We're talking about cloudy water, or like there's some sort of coloring to it. It's not. It can't be smelly water, as she's going to say. Is constant. Love in my harayim, love in my hamishra. He can't cover himself with bad water, like foul water, like smelly water, and not with water that was soaked with flax, and because flax is also very, very smelly. You also cannot say Shema near urine, meraglayin. Until you dilute those foul waters with water. You're not diluting the mikveh, you're diluting the urine and the flax water and all those other things. You're diluting that with water in order to get less smelly. But when you're talking about the water that they should cover, and it could be cloudy water, it could be some sort of water that's not smelly, but it's not crystal clear, because if it's crystal clear, then you can't say Shema because your heart sees your aver, and that's a problem. And how much of a distance must he move away from it, from the urine and from the flax water, in order, which has not been added to water, or from soa, from excrement? Arba amos. He has to move away 4 amos. 4 amos is about 8 to 10 feet, 6 to 8 feet, depending on the poskim. It's not so much, but you need to walk away from it. And the last mission we're going to do for today, Mishnah Vav, Zav Shira Keri. So a Zav, Tumas Ziva, we don't really have nowadays. We know about his seminal discharge, but we don't, Zav, Tumas Zav is not okay of this Malazem. But a Zav became a Zav. So now he has another issue. Now he had he saw Keri. So he's both a Zav and he's a Bal Keri. The Nida Shepalta Shifa Zeva, and a Nida, someone a woman who's on her period, and she, semen comes out from her. Um, and now she's tummy both as a nida and as a balkari. We have mishameshes shiras and nida, and also a woman who had relations with her husband, and then becomes a nida. So now she's coming as a balas keri and a nida. Tzrich and trila. In all these cases, they need to immerse in a mikveh before learning or davening, even though the tefillah does not make them fully tahor, because a zav and a nida require they they remain tummy for 7 days, but it does remove the balkari status. So a zav and a nida will still be tummy, but the mikveh dipping is going to help them overcome the balkari and reduce their level of tumah from 2 levels down to 1 level. Kiva Eger even talks about the issue of a woman. How is it possible that that a woman who has a seminal discharge during the Zayin Nikiya, like how is that possible? She was telling me that she was needed for 5 days, 4 or 5 days. I think it's 5 days. And then she goes into and she goes into the Zion accused. How is it possible that she had a that she part of Zera during the Zion Akiyim if she didn't have religion with her husband for at least a week? So he discusses that people who go for in vitro fertilization, where it's medically done and it's not done through normal relations with her husband, that they can do the in vitro fertilization during nida, which is not a mycebia, and that that's how the situation would arise. They would have an issue with mashkiv, with emitting the shechvazera during the zainakim. And that's different from someone who's actually living with her husband, and then she sees a nida afterwards. That is the end of Perek Gimel. Oh, sorry, Rabbi Yehuda Poter. Rabbi Yehuda is saying that the person is exempt from the mikveh because he says that it's not gonna help the balkari if he's still a zav or she's still a nida. It's not required before learning or davening according to Rabbi Yehuda. That is the end of the third parak. I just wanted, as we're finishing the first week, I'm coming up to the first Shabbos of this new initiative. I saw something very interesting today from Rabbi Nachman. He brings down that we know that Shabbos is Makar Bracha, and it spills over into the rest of the week. So you have 2 words. You have Be'er, which is Beis Aleph Reish, which is a water source. That's where the water comes from. It's a well. And you have the word Bor. Bor is Beis Vav Reish, which is a pit. It's where water goes into. It's not a water source by itself, but it holds the water that came out from the Be'er. The difference between the 2 words is Be'er has an aleph, and Bor, instead of the aleph, it has a vav in the exact same place. And the Be'er, the aleph represents Shabbos. Shabbos is 1 day, and that's the source of all the bracha. And the Bor, the vav, represents the 6 days of the week, which gets the bracha from Shabbos and fills up the rest of the week. I thought that was a mardik of word from Rabbi Nachman from Breslov, and a great way to end off this week. Have a wonderful Shabbos, and we will see you back here on Sunday morning, which is Shem at 9 o'clock Eastern Time.